All right, hey everyone, I'm Ed from Hustle Badger, and today we're talking to Johnny Quach, who is the CMO and CPO of MotorK.
That iteration cycle has gone from 1 year to, let's say, 1 quarter. And I think with AI, it goes to like half a day. Traditionally, that would involve a designer, a customer, a product manager, 2 to 5 engineers, et cetera, et cetera. With AI, what we're able to do is exclude everyone except maybe just a designer and a customer. I believe every single product manager and designer have always wanted to talk to customers as frequent as possible, but they couldn't for whatever reason. If you wanted to build stuff, it'll just build stuff, which is mediocre. So you really do have to have a strategy, game changer, like absolute game changer.
All right, hey everyone, I'm Ed from Hustle Badger, and today we're talking to Johnny Quach, who is the CMO and CPO of MotorK. Johnny, thanks for coming on and chatting to us.
Sweet. Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. I'm pumped. It's my favorite topic. So
That's why you're here. So look, we're going to spend most of this talking about how you're using AI in your teams, because I know that is something you're very passionate about and you're really kind of at the cutting edge here. But just to give people a little bit of context about sort of what MotorK is, so we know the environment that you're doing this in, give us the kind of headline overview.
yeah. So MotorK is a vertical SaaS company that specifically builds applications for dealerships across Europe. And that just means that we have a full suite of products that do different things for dealers to attract, retain, and convert customers. We have a CRM, we have a website product, we have a stock management product, et cetera, et cetera. So we have a full platform of existing apps that satisfy generally the whole customer journey for people looking to buy cars, but powering the dealerships to be able to attract customers.
And sketch out the size of the product org for us, so we got a sense of the
Yep.
scale here.
Yeah, product teams probably like including designers, PMs is probably 20-ish people. The whole company is about 380. Engineering, QA, if you roll all that's probably another 60 to 70-ish people. So roughly you're looking at maybe 3 pillars of products with maybe 6 or 7 squads. And it's pretty chaotic, I'd say, but you'll understand why later as we talk about the AI stuff.
That's super. Well, look, let's dive into it, because I think, we set up this chat because I saw you kind of explaining in a WhatsApp group or something how your product teams were using AI. Like, just outline that flow for us, because I found it really interesting.
Yeah. So I think if you go back in time to like, I don't know, 2000, let's say 5 or something, like I think at that time people were like, oh, software development is waterfall or whatever, which is like, oh, I'm going to do some web design and I'm going to spend like a month making it really dope. And then I'm going to give it to a bunch of developers and they're going to write a bunch of code. And in like 4 months, out pops a cool website with some features. And then we just like try to sell it or to people or whatever. And then I think that took a dramatic turn when Web 2.0 came and everybody kind of converged on like being agile, which essentially is the same process, but you shrink it down to 4 month iterations versus, let's say, like 1 year. So you still design, you still pass it to developers. They still develop the thing or a feature at a time. They try to show customers and you try to iterate through that loop. As of today, the things that have dramatically changed is it's the same trend, which is that iteration cycle has gone from 1 year to, let's say, 1 quarter. And I think with AI, it goes to like half a day. And so at a high level, essentially your goal is to build something, show a customer, find out what's good, what's bad, change it. And traditionally, that would involve a designer, a customer, a product manager, something like 2 to 5 engineers, et cetera, and like some iteration cycle. So with AI, what we're able to do is exclude everyone except maybe just a designer and a customer. And so a designer is able to design something, vibe code it with AI, send it to a customer, go on a video call, record the call, have the customer use the product, ask questions. And here's the part people miss: transcribe, record, dump that back into the AI, have it output the feedback, write the prompt to update the app, vibe code back the new version, call the customer in 3 hours, do it again. So that essentially used to take like a year. And then maybe in the last, like 7 years, it took like if you're very fast, like 6 weeks. But now it's literally day to day to day. You could just do that. Now, if you imagine a designer and a PM just doing that constantly, you will get so many decisions right.
Yeah, amazing. And so you're saying like you're not even having the designer kind of like process like 5, 6 interviews and kind of consolidate them. You're just like taking the transcripts, sticking them straight back in. Are you sticking them back into like an LLM like ChatGPT, or are you sticking them straight back into V0 or whatever tool you're using for prototyping?
Yeah, so typically we try to do our conversations with Gemini or ChatGPT. We don't really do it in the tool because I guess what we're trying to do is not fill it with too many questions, because then we just grow the stem of context, and that's not good for development. So in ChatGPT or Gemini, we built like a GPT that's an experienced user researcher. And I gave it all the prompts, the role, the background, like a resume.
Yeah.
And so we just dump the transcript there, and it extracts all the key points. And then we get the insights. We take the insights, we put it back into like another GPT that's kind of like a product management GPT, and it spits out requirements. And we then feed that back into we use Cursor or anything you can use. But so really, your goal is actually to separate the tools from each other, because you don't actually want the conversations happening. You want the outputs to go into the input, to go into the next input. So you keep everything clean and agentic and context strict is the goal.
Got it. You're saying like your designers are then setting up these calls with customers directly. Like, was there anything else like just logistics wise you needed to do, or like culturally, to make designers like happy with going around that loop really, really quickly?
I think the statement is true. I believe every single product manager and designer have always wanted to talk to customers as frequent as possible, but they couldn't for whatever reasons. Number one, they didn't have anything to say, didn't have anything to show. There wasn't, development took longer. Organizationally, it was weird. But I guess I don't think anyone disagrees that like listening to your customers is the golden rule of software development. So there was no friction from the individuals doing that work. There was a little internal coordination. What customers do we talk to? Blah, blah, blah. But no one's against this in general. Like, this is generally a thing every single human in a company wants to do, is talk to customers. It's actually quite the opposite. It's just coordinating all that feedback and then trying to organize it and then deciding what's good, what's bad, which is still a very human job, I think.
Yeah. Awesome. So if your designers are doing that, they're doing all this kind of speaking to the customers. What are the PMs doing at the same time then?
Yeah, I mean, the PMs do. I guess what I try to do with the company at a more direct level on the product, which is you're really trying to like. So I think the mistake is, everybody looks at AI and vibe coding, and you're just like, it's a magical box, and you tell it stuff, and it just like builds crap. But it still builds like stupid crap. And if you want it to build stuff, it'll just build stuff, which is mediocre. So you really do have to have like a strategy, which I know sounds like quite opposite of the chaoticness that we try to implement, but you want to have a strategy of like what the product does and why it does it better than other companies. Because just because you have the ability to have unlimited developers that are lightning fast, it's still like you can make a bunch of bad crap. So you have to have a general like, okay, we want this product to be the best at X. And then during the interviews, you're trying to validate if you are actually hitting that mark. But without that direction, you're just like building the most custom product for every dealer or whatever customer in the world, which is not a good product, typically speaking. So you still have to have guardrails of what you're willing to take in as feedback, and you still have to make those decisions and trade-offs. It's still like a screen is still limited in real estate, so you cannot just go with every feature. So the product managers still have to prioritize, they still have to strategize, they still have to make trade-offs and things like that. So that's typically the work, is defining directionally what the product should do really well. But it's the details, the buttons, is the UI here, is it a drop down, is it a radial button, is it this form factor, whatever. That stuff is very silly to get wrong these days. But if you got it wrong in the past, it really makes your product not good. So it's just like removing the risk of that. But hopefully your strategy is correct, and then it's really about the product experience.
Just like a couple more questions on this then, logistically. So I could just imagine, because you're speaking to so many customers, do you have any problems like just recruiting enough people to speak to, or are customers like happy because you've always got a prototype that they're interested to have a look at?
I don't know if there's many companies that have that problem recruiting. Some companies offer money and stuff like that. We have our customers are definitely willing to talk because they've had feedback about the current product. So for us, it was a beautiful moment because let's imagine that this AI stuff didn't happen and all this stuff didn't exist. We're a company that has a ton of customers that have been with us, some for over 10 years. And naturally, they want the product to get better. So they have a long list of feedback. And of course, it's very hard to service all that and to prioritize it against every customer. So with the AI stuff, how that's really helped us, it's able for us to make those ideas tangible in a vibe coded app, show it to them. And a lot of times, like people imagine things to work a certain way. And when they're using it, they realize this is actually kind of hard or I'm not going to use it. So it's
Yeah.
actually a way for you to validate their idea in front of them. And so that's really helped simplify the signal to noise ratio for us. So, I mean, definitely they're willing to talk. And I think the other just tidbit that's important is like at a dealership or any SaaS company, there's typically different roles that use the product. So we have a salesperson, we have the manager, we have the lead qualifier, we have the office manager. So we're interviewing not just like a customer, we're using the interview the user inside of that, all the roles. And that is an extremely critical thing that you have time to do now, I think.
Right. Got it. Got it. The other thing I wanted to just double back on a bit was you mentioned you're using Cursor. Are the designers using Cursor as well then?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And that's what they're
Yes.
doing their
Yep.
prototypes in.
They design like Figma. I think there's a plugin, but you can do all the fancy native integration, but literally the first time we did it, we just took a screenshot, we just dumped into Cursor. And after tinkering for like an hour or two, we got the UI pretty much exact,
Yeah.
which is pretty mind blowing. I think now, it's been like a few months, it's even easier. So you can really have it output it immediately. Now, the application itself, there's bugs. You got to QA it sometimes, but really, you get a product working pretty good. And it has like most of the features a person would want to see in at least on one screen, I would say. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Cool. And then you're using Gemini. Like, what are there any other tools that are new in the tool stack then?
Yeah, so just for the product developers and the designers, so we're using Cursor mainly for a development tool. We've tried using Lovable just to quickly spin up ideas. That's fun, but it gets pretty useless pretty quickly. Not because the product's not good, because then what? You have like you just kind of like it's cool, but so you really do need something that you can use and keep using and actually use the outputs in production, like eventually. So Cursor used by our designers because if we vibe code the app, uh, we probably won't use most of the backend code because it's not production ready. You still need like a good developer to review and to make changes, but the front end stuff we totally can use.
Yeah.
And so you're actually not wasting effort in that step, right? So Cursor for that, we mostly use Gemini at work just because it comes with the Google Suite. I use everything because I'm curious. Some of the team members use ChatGPT, but I found that not to be that important actually for this specific use case. I think there are things where it does matter, but in this, it's pretty like flat, I would say, in terms of like because I think the things you're asking it to do are actually quite simple, which is extract transcripts, figure this out, write a prompt for this. It generally you don't need like the fanciest model to do as well.
Yeah. 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 Awesome. Was there anything that you needed to do to increase the usage of AI tools in general in the company, or like how big a shift
Yeah.
was that for you? Did that just like people suck it up, or
It, so like when you think about it, when you think about it by department, naturally like the product managers and the UI designers are like the first ones to adapt this kind of tool. And I think the reason is it unblocks something that they were never able to directly impact, which is development time. And so that's the first people that are like, what is this? Because it really enables me as an individual to do anything. So that's one. That's the first group. And then the second group, engineers are, I'd say 20-80, right? 20% like, oh my God, this is dope. I got to try it. The other 80 are like, but it's not good quality. And yeah, I got to learn it. It's going to take that same amount of time. There's naturally this phase. They will get over that over time if you force the rituals in there and you have them start experimenting with specific projects, because it does remove a lot of annoying work, and it does remove a lot of annoying work on features or work that is not so fun. So, there's a bit of a convincing there. So then for the rest of the company, which I think is the most not talked about productivity gain in technology, is actually companies, not the apps, not the products you sell. It's actually the people in the company. We mostly talk about AI tools in terms of product managers, UI designers, and engineers, but the most basic LLM unlocks so much productivity for a finance person or an HR generalist or an operations or a customer service agent. I mean, it's actually unfathomable how much it unlocks productivity. And so to get the whole company using it, because those people are less engineering native, so these tools are a little more alien. So I had to do actual workshops on basic LLM usage, and so we do it about like 75 people per group. We do it online, and it took about like 7 of these workshops to train the whole company on how
Right.
to use an LLM at the basic level. And what you find is even advanced users don't use it in the most best practice. Like they don't set the role, they don't set the context, they don't know that you can dump files. So once we got that, everybody had a low but minimum level of AI familiarity. Then the next thing happens, which is everyone's brainstorming of crazy ideas just goes bananas, and everybody will use AI for everything. And then you gotta like pull that back down, and then what you do find is then you start to see like most of those ideas are poor ideas because they're just like, I want to do everything with AI, and you can't, or it's a bad idea, or whatever. But then, out of those ideas, like 10% are like, this is a game changer.
Got
And
it.
then you start to seriously try to implement it. So this is like the natural life cycle of like a group of people discovering the unlimited power of AI all at once.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't know if there's any kind of examples you can share there, or that would kind of bring things to life, or
I could talk about like a few things that we like, a few things I use personally
yeah,
that I think is not specific to me. So I think everyone typically has a way to transcribe and record their meetings, right? But most of those tools are pretty good at actually creating action items. But the issue is they're typically stuck in the document or the tool itself. We use Nathan, N8N.io,
yeah,
I think, but it's called Nathan. Anyways, um, we chose that as our main workflow thing. So everyone in the company, all the managers have access to this tool, and we're constantly training people how to use it. So I use this thing, and I built a workflow where every time I get a Gemini transcript of a meeting, it goes to the bottom, looks for the action items, extracts the Google name of the people, looks them up to see if they were in the meeting, then does a search for that person in JIRA, creates a ticket and assigns that person with the task.
right,
And then I built like a very traditional Jira workflow, which is just like remind them, having comments. And so that's a pretty crazy thing because you can really just use that for any big project. And what I haven't done yet is build the next part where it looks at Jira and just summarizes the updates of all tasks. But that's my next phase. So that's one thing that if you did that, and I mean, I don't remember the last time I took a note in a meeting. Like it literally hasn't happened. And I
yeah,
haven't even, like, I don't even think about what action items are. Like it's actually completely removed from my life. And I don't know if people realize that, but that is gone. And that used to be a huge cognitive load in a meeting to write stuff down or type stuff. It's all gone. Like, so this is pretty mind blowing. Some other stuff like, we work across different countries, and every marketing material, every product needs translations. And I don't know, for most people, it's one of the most obnoxious things in the world. It's actually getting translations right. I have no idea why. So we built a workflow where every time a ticket is deployed to any product, the code, the Bitbucket code is reviewed. It sets an alert to the workflow, sends the code snippet with the key to the AI, automatically translates into language, updates the file, automatically updates all the languages. This is sick. Like, this is totally sick. Because before this, it would be like, can you get a guy who speaks Italian? Can you get a guy who speaks
yeah,
French?
yeah.
Can you get a, like, and then you got to coordinate the meeting and you set the contact and blah, 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 blah. It's like a disaster. This game changer, like absolute game changer. And what is the translation engine? Like you spend like 50,000 a year something on 5 languages. So this was crazy, but not complicated, strangely, just to do that. Let's see. And then final one is marketing materials, you need to translate it in a lot of languages. Use the most basic decks. Yeah, pitch decks for different customers. You need in different languages. What do you normally do? You get a 20-page slide deck. You got to find 5 people who speak 5 different languages that go in there. Well, I kind of did it a hacky way. I actually used ChatGPT Operator, and I gave it access to the Google Slides. And I just go for the slide, click on each text, and translate it into French, save the file, make another one, do it for German, Italian, and it does it. It does it really well. It kind of messes up the formatting. I had to fix it, but like that's an amazing way to just 10 language, like all your decks. So, and this seems small, but you gotta imagine how much time did that cost in the past?
Yeah.
So there's millions of these things. And I don't even know if we appreciate how much time is just saved, but it's even hard to measure because you instantly do other things with your free time. But yeah, so those are some really funny examples.
Great examples. No, thank you for sharing. N8Ns, obviously, it's a little bit more technical than, say, just using ChatGPT or using Gemini. Do you have to kind of train people to use those tools, or how are you actually getting people to use them to their full potential?
So N8N it's like a workflow builder that you can insert LLMs to make decisions on certain steps. Gemini it can do some things, but it cannot interact with most applications. So Gemini can't send a message in Slack, for example, but N8N could do it based on triggers and et cetera, et cetera. So it's really like the core thing that connects all apps, if they're even from different companies. Now, it is more technical, but the reason we went with it versus Zapier or Gumloop or whatever is we actually needed it to be technical because it does allow a bit more freedom. And that, in theory, is more powerful when you become more advanced at it. So we're just assuming that we would get past the click and drag kind of piece and get more technical. For example, the translation example I gave earlier, this is a bit technical, and you can't really do it with the more user-friendly ones.
Right.
I think the other thing we liked about NN, it's like you can self-host it, which we do. So that's just another reason. Now, teaching people this, it's very hard. It's super hard. Essentially, people need to understand how an API works. And most people, you'd be surprised, don't know what an API does. So you need to understand how that works. You also need to write really well because there's a lot of prompts. And you need to actually design a workflow. And most people don't actually have experience doing that. So one thing that helps is, number one, YouTube has 1,000,000,001 videos. I literally watch a 2-hour one every week.
Yeah.
And and you jump in. Now, the other thing that really works well, I think, for just getting people in the mode is like when they want to do something, like you just have them draw it out first on a piece of paper. And, it's just like software development. Software development is mostly planning. If you do have good planning of what you're trying to build, it's actually quite easy. And what you notice is all the software AI development tools, the first thing the bot asks you when you talk to it is it asks you a bunch of questions to plan the workout. So something about like our inability to plan is the blocker for humans. So most people, when you give them these tools and you teach them how to use it, the first thing they should do is like put it aside and draw on a piece of paper of what they want to happen, and then have them build it. And so this really helps. You have a person who's like very familiar with N8, Nathan, and you have a person not. You have the person who's not come up with an idea and draw out the workflow. You have the person who's very good at it, build the whole thing. You put them both on a phone call, on a video call, and you have the person who doesn't know how to do it from scratch. And you have the person who's already built it, not say anything until the person is really stuck. And then you unblock them. If you do this, it'll last about 3 hours for a simple workflow, but everyone becomes pro user in like 3 hours. And I had to do this, mind blowing. Best thing I've ever done.
Okay.
I did it 3 times, game changer. Like you become so good at it.
You did that for like 3 people in the company, and they did it each then for a bunch more people, and that's how you spread it through the whole company?
So we have a few people that are very good at the tool, so they are constantly doing these kind of calls.
Yeah.
I've done it 9 hours worth myself. I'm the one who's the novice. So I come with an idea, I have someone build it, I send them a call, they help me debug when I'm really stuck. And so I've done at least 9-10 hours of this myself, and every time blows my mind how much I get better at it but also how much more I understand software development, which is crazy. Like you learn so many things that you take for granted as a non-developer. So this is like life changing. I think this like skill set to learn.
Yeah, awesome. Look, we've covered a lot of ground here. We've covered some of the agent workflows. We covered prototyping. Are there any other kind of really big productivity gains or changes to the way the whole company is working that you're seeing because of AI?
So I'll give one more interesting example that is often uh, forgotten form factor. And then I'll give you a general thing that most people aren't doing enough of. So the first thing is we had in one of our products, we had a feature. The feature would output like a PDF, but the feature itself had to be customized per customer. And let's say to do this, it took something like 3 to 5 days, one developer, mainly because of the QA period and all that stuff. So the designer, one of our designers had a great idea, which is he calls up the main developer that does this request for every new customer. They do a video call, and the developer and the designer goes, "Okay, walk me through everything you do to build this feature." And so he's talking through it, and just keep in mind, these guys are Italian, so they're speaking like Italian, right? They're recording the call, they're transcribing the call, and the developer's, okay, I do this, I change this, I go here, I deploy this, I make this update. Okay, took the transcript, no joke, copy paste into into Gemini, extract into the main steps, prepare a prompt for Cursor, copy paste, Cursor one shots it in 30 minutes. Developer just needs to QA it, just needs to review it, another 20 minutes, product features live. So we are able to duplicate this thing forever.
Amazing.
Now, so the main use case I think most people don't do is they don't dump the transcript of their meetings. Like what you should do is have ultra unstructured conversations about whatever problem, record it, transcribe it, and just dump it into ChatGPT or Gemini and run deep research against some big decision. We had a product where we had a screen where the actual data we were showing was too confusing to customers. And they didn't get it, but we didn't know the right form factor because it's kind of a complicated thing. We brainstormed a bunch of things on a call. We talked through it. We interviewed customers. And it's like 5 hours worth of content and transcripts. Just dumped all that into ChatGPT, ran deep research and said, I'm trying to figure out a new way to show this data in a new KPI that has, one, not confusing, two, easy to understand, blah, 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 blah. I mean, and it just like one shot at 10 decent ideas. And eventually one was like the one that we explored and it became the thing. So I just think that you should really take advantage of all your unstructured data in a company. Yeah. This is the gold mine, like your brainstorms, your workshops, no one does this. People just try to prompt everything. It's like, this is crazy. I don't write anything. I just record what I'm talking about, like boom, goes right into it. And every time I'm just like shocked of how much time you gain from that.
Awesome. That's amazing. Look, this has been fantastic for people who are kind of taking their first steps in AI, or even people who are playing around with it. Like, what tips do you give people just for staying up to date with all of this stuff?
I think there's like 1,000,000,001 good content creators out there. And I think all the popular ones are actually very good at like instructing people.
Do you have any favorites? Yeah. Any specific favorites?
Well, strangely, the ones that I really like watching are the ones that just record themselves for 3 hours doing something. And one guy that comes to mind is the CEO of Gumroad. He has 2 to 3 hour videos of literally him just vibe coding. And I mean, I just literally watch that and just copy what he's doing.
Yeah.
And you're just, but, I'd say follow the ones where it's unedited, because you really need to actually like copy every step to get it. Because typically the videos are edited. Sometimes you run into a bug and then you don't know how to debug it and then you just give up. So it's really important to watch like live recordings of people doing it and just follow along. I think this has been easily the best homework. Second thing, I'd say literally go on Upwork or whatever.
Yeah.
Look for an NNA expert. They're going to be something between $25 to $100 an hour.
Yeah.
Tell that person, I want to build X. Have them build it, and then be like, great. That'll take them like an hour or two. Then you go, I want to pay you for a third hour. Sit on a call with me while I build it. Do this thing I said. I promise you, every hour is like 40% more intelligent, and you're going to be so much more capable.
Yeah.
This is the only way. I mean, it's like getting a personal trainer. Like literally, it's just watching him. It's like, don't do that. Do this. Oh, you got stuck. The credentials are wrong. He's like, what's credentials? I was like, go there. Database, bro. I was like, how? And then you learn to debug everything. And this is the best. This is the gravity chamber in Dragon Ball Z, guys. Like, how someone watch you and just like push you constantly. This is the best way, I think. Literally.
Amazing. Amazing. Johnny, this has been fantastic. Thank you so much. We've got so many kind of like really innovative, but like super practical ideas here. I know I'm kind of bursting with us. Thanks one again for coming on. By the way, if people want to find you, we'll put all your links in the bottom. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Sweet. Glad to be here, man. Love it.